ghastly apparition wearing shackles, the sound of clattering chains. Do you know where the first haunted house story came from? Let's talk about that. When you mention ghosts and haunted houses, it conjures up visions of apparitions in Gothic mansions or ancient castles whose very stones hold the memories of the souls who have dwelt there. In our modern everyday life, we're disconnected from these well-worn and even cliché atmospheric settings. It's like it all took place in another universe. A lot of it is our ever-increasing superficial view of the world. If it can't be produced in a double-blind study, published in a peer-reviewed paper, patent pending of course, well, then it's just a superstition. But places like the Mystic Museum in Burbank, California, tell a different side of the story. We have a deep attraction to the otherworldly, and our yearly celebration of Halloween, which Americans spend over $10 billion on each year, demonstrate how much these stories mean to us. Now, for many Americans, it's much more than just a yearly adventure into the macabre. 41% of Americans say they believe in ghosts, with 21% saying they've experienced them personally. And you can't have Halloween without a haunted house. And of course, a ghost rattling his chains. But where did these stories come from? Accounts of ghosts and other apparitions date back a very long time. How far back? Well, a gentleman by the name of Pliny the Younger, who lived in the 1st century and who is considered a very reliable source on life in the Roman era, wrote of ghostly encounters. But how can a story from 2,000 years ago bear any resemblance to the ghost stories of today? And who is this Pliny anyway? Pliny was born around 61 AD. He died around 113 AD. We don't have any first-hand account of his death. We simply establish that date as no more letters from him are recorded at that time. Among the notable things in his life is he was a first-hand witness to the eruption of Mount Vesuvius, the same Vesuvius that took out Herculaneum and Pompeii. Side note, his uncle, Elder Pliny, was killed making a rescue attempt to Herculaneum at the height of the eruption. Hardly a family to be trifled with. Now that's all very impressive, but what does that have to do with haunted houses and ghost stories? Among his writings are what can be considered the first ghost story, the first account of a haunted house. In Book 7, letter number 27, he writes about a house that was for sale and couldn't find a buyer because of an apparition that was there. Now, a very wealthy man comes along and he realizes there's a deal and he figures out there must be a catch. He finds out about the ghost, so he goes and he stays the night in the house. Instead of sleeping, he sets up his writing materials. As the night wears on, he hears the apparition. It grows closer and closer, but he doesn't look up from his writings immediately. He waits until the apparition is very close to him. When he looks up, it's a gaunt figure wearing shackles on both of his wrists, and he dangles the chains over his head. He beckons him forward and takes him to a spot in the yard. The next day, the wealthy man has the spot dug up, and lo and behold, there is a body there, in chains. The body was buried with the proper ceremonies, and the house was no longer haunted. This can be considered the origin of the modern ghost story, of the apparitions that we are all so familiar with. of wearing chains and skulking about houses late at night, beckoning people forward. The first documented story of a haunted house, 2,000 years ago. Whether you believe in ghost stories or not, you must admit that being able to trace back this traditional story of a house haunted by someone who has left this world, someone who is dead, who is bound by chains, and being able to trace it back 2,000 years to a source as reliable as Pliny, it does give you pause. Are these stories true?